to be engaged in the mission of the Sunday school of our churches in the Western Diocese. To me personally, Sunday school is one of the most important missions because it is at the Sunday school where our children receive the Word of God and also cultivate their heart and soul and mind, with the messages of Christ our Lord. It is always a pleasure for me when I visit the Sunday schools, when I make my pastoral visitations to the schools and also to the churches on Sundays, to have a conversation, a dialogue with the children. And it is amazing and most inspiring to see that children have the genuine love and interest for God, for Christ our Lord, and they also inspire us to stay committed in our mission to serve them, to serve our communities. Therefore, I pray the Almighty God to grant you all the strength, the divine wisdom, the guidance, so that you may continue to be the holy hands of the Almighty God in the lives of our children. God bless you all, and I wish you all much success in this conference. And I have no doubt that within the next an hour and a half, we will be spiritually re-energized, uplifted, and look forward for the Sunday school opening in our respective communities. Asfat ornetzez oloret. Amen.
Thank you, dear Sir Pazan, for your blessing and for your guidance. As always, with Sunday school direction, the support you're providing to us, we truly appreciate that. So I just want to give a small introduction why we choose certain topics for probably last couple of years. We concentrate on mainly methodology, how to teach in the classroom, how to manage the classroom, some methods and ways that can be helpful to the teachers. As from my personal interaction with a lot of teachers, Sunday school teachers, I've learned that, they're having challenges in controlling the kids, controlling the classroom, being able to, let's say, I have enough knowledge, from the Bible, the church, the saints, and history, but I'm not able to communicate that with the kids, especially if I'm not a teacher professionally. I haven't taught in a school setting, and it becomes a challenge for someone who's volunteering to come in to the class of, let's say, 10, 15 kids, 7, 8-year-olds, and to be able to control this and communicate in a way that relates to these kids and makes an impact with them, especially in this last couple of years, I would say, especially after COVID. If you're following with the happenings in the educational system, in the schools and the universities, you see that our kids, especially Christian kids, are facing challenges, and which we, the church, the Sunday schools and Sunday school teachers, we're kind of getting this responsibility to help our kids to be more courageous, to be more convicted, kind of in their convictions, in their faith, in their values, because it's getting more and more difficult. So, and in order to be able to do that, we might have the knowledge, but we also need the tools to do that. And that for that reason, this year we asked our dear Arpi, Avanessian, and our dear Zar, who both have immense experience in teaching, to help us in that route. And I'm going to let our speakers to introduce themselves and to go from there. Arpi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Vahajan. Good morning, everyone. My name is Arpi Avanessian. I started off at 24 years old as a high school history teacher in Glendale Unified. So imagine as a 24-year-old, I was teaching 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds high school history. And I very much looked like them almost. You know, I was 10 years, and even the administrators at the time joked that where's your hall pass, you know? And it was a really hard thing for me to learn, or it was probably one of the blessings for me, which was to be so young and to teach high school allowed me to really understand how to discipline the class. And I use this word discipline, and we're going to come back to it. I created a slideshow presentation to speak to all of you about this, but I want to give you a little bit of a background about myself very quickly, and then go into it. So I started teaching high school at 24 years old. And I continued in the public school system. And then I went to Rosa and Alex Pilibos, and I taught there for 3 years, AP comparative politics, history, world history, US history. I did that for 3 years. And then I left to work for LA Unified. And I worked for LA Unified for 10 years, evaluating teachers and principals and so forth. And that gave me a complete different perspective on teaching, and it allowed me to walk into over 2,000 classrooms all over LA Unified District, and I was evaluating teachers and programs. And it wasn't the teacher per se. We were looking at programs like open court, you know, and we were tracking the kids. So we were doing a lot of scientific research going into the classroom. And it made me realize how the educational system is flawed in the country, in the US, and how they teach us to become teachers isn't the most beneficial and most effective way. How I became a better teacher was watching other teachers teach. Great teachers to very poor teachers, brand new teachers to who were really great, to teachers who had been teaching for 30 years who were not that effective in the classroom or who had kind of given up. And walking into all of these classrooms really changed my perspective and really shaped me as an educator, and I moved on. After that, I went into early childhood education, and I was an administrator, a school professional in the early childhood setting for 7 years, and I learned that. And then I went and I taught again in the classroom while I was doing the early childhood. And soon after that, about 7 years later, I went to AGBU Manukian Demirjian School, and I was a principal there for 7 years and worked from preschool all the way to high school. And just recently, I have been consulting for schools to get, you know, to deal with student discipline issues, student concerns, business plans, you know, all of that business side of schools. So I thank you all for coming. Is English going to be tough for everybody? Should I switch back from English to Armenian? Or if there is any moment that anyone will seeks clarification in Armenian, please let me know or put it in the chat box, and I will talk about, and I will translate it in Armenian should that be necessary. But, you know, moving into my presentation, Bahe, am I allowed to share my screen?
I think so. I appointed you as a co-host,
Okay.
so you should be able to
Awesome.
do that.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Perfect. So you guys can see my screen. Sorry. I will go into larger, and I'll go into my slideshow presentation. Vahe, when Vahe and I first spoke, I gave him a couple topics. So he said classroom management would be a good ideal. And I know as Sunday school teachers, after kids have been in the classroom for 5 days, it might be that much more difficult for Sunday school teachers to have kids coming into the classroom on Sundays. And especially Sunday school it's a choice. It's a parental choice, and it's a child, you know, a kid's choice to further educate the children. And so I understand that in a lot of respects, it's a little bit more challenging for Sunday school teachers, as in classroom teachers, because they are going maybe on, the 6th day into the classroom. Let's make this as interactive as possible. So if you guys have any questions, or if I can ask questions and you guys can respond, that'd be great. The slideshow is quite scripted. We can go through it, and I know my timing should be about 30 minutes to finish it, so that we could easily make the mark for ending this professional development in an hour and a half. So one of the things that people confuse about classroom management is, initially they always think classroom management is discipline, and discipline. And while discipline is very important and very necessary, discipline often has a very negative connotation to that word of discipline. But clearly stated, if you look into Google it, what is discipline? Discipline is simply defined as the practice of teaching others to obey rules or norms by using punishment to correct unwanted behaviors. And for example, in a classroom, a teacher uses discipline to ensure routine is maintained, school rules are enforced, and that students are in a safe learning environment. So one of the first things that they say is that they use punishment to correct unwanted behaviors. And that in itself has a very negative connotation to discipline. And classroom management is not negative in nature. It's a particular style that each teacher and each person comes into teaching their students, or anyone who is put in their care. So for those of you who are part of this thing, is punishment the best way to teach discipline or compliance or following the rules or maintaining self-control? And I would venture to say that almost all of you as educators will agree with me that punishment is not the best way to teach discipline, and that there are much more proactive means that we can engage in, and when we are engaging with our students, to teach them how to be in a shared setting and work in shared environments, and how to be the best student, how to be the better teacher, and how to be a great friend. And while punishment has been historically the basis of discipline, it is not what is considered discipline in today's world. I'm sure many of you have heard there are different styles and approaches to teaching. There's the authoritarian style of classroom management. There's the authoritative style. There's the permissive, and then there's the indulgent style. Are any of you aware of what these 4 key terms mean when you're in the classroom for the 30-40 minutes that you have your kids? Or how do you associate yourselves as teachers do you have a more authoritarian style? Do you have a more authoritative style? Are you permissive, or are you indulgent with your students? If you wanted to kind of categorize these 4 into 4 boxes, you can see that when there's that the teacher has most control of the classroom, it's usually where they have more control and students have less options of input. So that would be in a very directed classroom. It would be an authoritarian, where the teacher has very high input and rules are very strictly enforced and punishment is used. Is in an authoritarian classroom, where kids have not much say into how their involvement is in the running of the classroom, and the teacher has the ultimate say in them. So that's more where there's more teacher control, less student involvement. Indulgent, on the other side, if you look diagonally, is where there is more student involvement, less teacher control. Permissive is a difference. I can go through all of what all of these means, but I want to do a simple summary for all of these so that I can share my slides and my notes with all of you should you want them. Is that in a lot of instances, studies show that there isn't one I'm not here to tell you to be a more authoritative teacher, less permissive. You have to work with what you are good at. We often want to teach our students to the average or to a particular height. And what we really want to do is we want to teach our students to be the best versions of themselves, to take them where they naturally come from, expose them to different things, help shape them, but not completely change them. They will change and they will evolve through the process. But to try to make them fit into something that they're not is going to be very difficult. And same with teachers. If you are a more indulgent, more permissive teacher, to expect you to be authoritative or an authoritarian style of teaching is not something that is going to allow you to be successful. So this talk that I'm giving you is not about telling you one is better than the other. It's helping to shape you as a teacher in the classroom to become the best teacher you can possibly be. Trying to work with tools or skill sets that don't come naturally to you is something that you have to work consistently to make these things a better part of your magic tricks in the classroom. I often found when I was in observing teachers in the classroom, when they had good control of the class, wasn't necessarily the very strict teachers who didn't allow the kids to talk and so forth. It was the teachers who had the most compliant students, who were the most actively engaged, came from a different variety. There were some that were very lecture style teachers who they were teaching, to very student-led classrooms where kids were in co-ed or groupings where they were directing their own learning and the teacher was more of the facilitator. Many different styles work. There's not just one way of working, but my goal is for you to identify what kind of teacher you are, what kind of person you are, and to understand yourself, and to then look at, where are my struggles in the classroom? Where am I being successful? Where can I improve? I think teachers who have the approach of being very self-reflective in the classroom are the more successful teachers, because they know they're not perfect. They know they have areas to improve, and they actively work on it. And one of the strengths as human beings that differentiates us is our capacity to learn. And once we understand our capacity to learn, and that we have infinite, opportunities to learn and grow and become a successful teacher, is just that, building on your foundational skills of who you are today, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and consistently working towards that and getting better and improving and identifying, learning, looking at what other teachers do. So one of the most reflective things I ask teachers to do is to set goals for them at the beginning of the year. So this is the start of your year. Identify your goals, or identify just for yourself what areas you want to improve on, and make note of that, and then actively work towards how you want to improve. Or if you identify a child that's struggling or is causing discipline issues in the classroom, identify it and figure out, see if you are able to make improvements. Because I'm sharing my screen, if anyone raises their hand or anything like that, I will not see it. So just please unmute yourself and pipe in, and just ask me to stop if I'm moving. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can so we can meet our time deadlines. So I ask teachers to look at themselves and to identify early on, and at the end of their teaching year for that year, kind of reflect and see what were you successful on, what did you do well, what did you not do well in, and then work towards those skill sets, and research, ask for input, help. And there are many people who are willing to help. And one of the best ways I felt, as having gone through the teacher ed program in the state, which was to give me my credential to teach, I didn't feel it was the most optimal way of learning, having me become a teacher in the classroom, what made me a better teacher was observing other teachers. And now that these days they have these buzzwords of developing professional learning communities, PLCs, and stuff. But I really, really put a high value of observing teachers, even quote unquote bad teachers, or teachers who are not, because you learn what exactly not to do, right? So sometimes you need, as much as you need the good, you need the bad too. And it kind of re-emphasizes for you and reinforces your belief system as to what, how you can improve in your craft. So look at and identify where you fall in this box, you know, in these 4 categories. Are you more, do you lean towards more authoritarian? Are you more indulgent? Are you more authoritative? Are you permissive? And if you like how you're teaching and you feel like you're successful, incorporate, you know, other things. But if you feel like you need more help in a particular manner, go observe another classroom. Go observe another Sunday school class, another Sunday school teacher, if you can. It will shine so much light onto your own teaching practices. It'll reinforce and it'll re-engage you, and you will become motivated to use some of people's, because we all come with different strengths and weaknesses, and we all don't do the same thing well. And so it would be really great to see how some teachers do things that are well. So one of the things when you are trying to figure out which one of these 4 types of teachers are your thing, you have to know, what are your goals as a teacher? You have to identify that. What are my goals as a teacher? Why do I want to work with students? Why do I want to teach Sunday school? You know, the faith is very important, and you have 2 things in common with your students. One, you're both there on Sunday. Second, their families, if not the children, at least their families have identified that Sunday school is important for their children. And you as a teacher feel that Sunday school is important because you're there teaching. And so you have these 2 goals. You're both there. And the second is you both feel that Sunday school, or that at least their family feels that Sunday school is something that is valued and is something that's important for their growth and development of their children. Next, you want to look at is, how do you want to work with your students? Do you want to lecture to them? Do you want to give them, independent work time? How do you feel students learn the best? And sometimes how students learn best in a traditional school day is not necessarily how students learn best on Sundays, when it's perceived their day off from school and so forth. So you want to identify what works best for your students. Oftentimes, even very new teachers, they're very concerned. I was very concerned because I was very young looking at the time, and I was teaching high school. So I felt like I had to be more strict than I needed to be, just so that I ensured that my students would take me seriously, because I looked their age. I looked like them. I wasn't that far off. I was 9 years, 8 years, 10, in some cases, 10 years older than them. How was I all of a sudden not a master, but someone proficient enough to teach them history? And so I misconceived, or I had these misaligned goals, that I needed to be more strict with my students than necessary because of how I felt that they perceived me. So I wanted to, but I also wanted my students to love me, or like me and prefer me, and I wanted to be successful. So I was very compassionate in certain respects. I was very permissive because I thought, well, I have cheated in high school. How can I find fault? I have done these things. I haven't been the perfect and ideal student. But I think what I've quickly realized is being able to relate to my student, and know that I have been in their shoes, that if I'm capable, of cheating, or if I'm capable of lying, or if I'm capable of misbehavior, I should at least show some compassion to my students who are doing these things. So I wanted to really ensure. I originally misaligned that and thought that being permissive and understanding and giving them what they wanted was what was right. But I realized what worked for me and what was a better approach was to be compassionate towards my students, and to understand why they were doing that, and to redirect them, and to work with them, and to have them also self-reflect. Why did you do this? Why did you cheat? Or did you have a long practice? Did you, you were too tired? Were your parents fighting? Showing compassion goes a lot of ways, and we're going to talk about compassion. A lot of educators, philosophers on education will tell you that a lot of to the teacher success is a successful learning environment. How is your classroom organized? Do you have set classroom rules? Were the children part of the classroom rules? Did you make it together? And I'll tell you, when kids are involved in their learning, they do more. When they're involved in building and understand why the rules are being enforced and why these are the rules, they are more apt to engage. So the understanding your learning environment, what kind of learning environment you want to create, and what happens in your learning environment will help you become and set your goals and objectives of your classroom. And then the other thing that you should consider is, where do you want your students to be? Faithfully, academically, socially, emotionally, by the end of their time with you. And so these are things you should consider when you set out this year. These are the things that you want when you're self-reflecting, is to set these forward. Teachers that are respected and liked by their students, and students who are socially competent and responsible is a great environment. So that's when you kind of where you want to be. So an ideal situation, if you ask educators or professors who study, teachers that are respected and liked by their students, and students that are socially competent or responsible, are probably the best learning environments. So I put that in there so that when you develop and answer these questions, you know that you can be liked, but respect should come first, and liking someone is not necessarily being friends with someone. But you also want to give kids the opportunities to be competent, socially competent, and be responsible, and these things can mutually work together. I don't know about you guys, but in the regular day-to-day classrooms, especially in public schools and in a lot of private schools, we do, as teachers, have a lot of disruptive behaviors. And what do you do as a teacher, and how do you handle disruptive behaviors in the Sunday school classrooms? You generally will have less students in the environment, not like a typical school day. But that doesn't mean you won't have disruptive learning, opportunities. Do many of you, I'm not going to focus too much if you don't have too many disruptive behaviors. Is there a lot of disruptive behaviors in the Sunday school classroom? I'm asking for any person to volunteer.
From my experience, we had siblings in my class a few years back. Mm-hmm. One of the siblings, a brother, was impossible to work with. This guy couldn't concentrate on anything. He would, talk to other kids all the time, or do something and be like very noisy in the class. And eventually, what I figured, like I didn't know the kid when for the first month I was just losing it. Hey, Sean, you have to stop this, blah blah blah. But then eventually, kind of, I figured, just let him do what he does, and kind of, I would approach him, put my hand on the back, or whisper in his ear, be careful, be a little silent, and blah blah. And the class and me, we kind of figured a way how to deal with him. And eventually he kind of, not very fast, but in a few months, he kind of merged into the classroom. He was still a little disruptive, he would talk, explode with a commentary or something, but eventually it was, and he started learning things, but that's the one that I remember.
Vahid, what do you think allowed him to become more engaged in the classroom? What do you think kind of while he would still have his momentary disruptive behaviors, but what eventually got him, what do you think got him to be more classroom, part of the classroom than not part of the class, less disruptive?
I would say me, the teacher, being less strict with him, because I used to, well, my kind of from the four descriptions that you put, authoritarian, authoritative,
this one.
I would describe myself as authoritative.
Okay.
Which is I'm in control, but the students are involved, because I ask questions all the time. I tell them, what would be your scenario, and blah blah. Ask them questions that are outside of the specific, topic of the day, and so they involve. They like to talk about their interests, about things that happen in school, or in their family, and so this way of like bringing in some personal opinions and things that happen to them, and he would participate in these things. So that's why he felt kind of part of the class.
Yeah. I think what you did, and maybe not necessarily knowing, because you, as you said, you were not a trained teacher in a regular classroom day school, right?
No.
One of the things that you naturally did was that you adapted more towards him than forced him to be part of. You kind of had the line, but you were also, I don't like using the word tolerate, but you understood that he was a little different. He required a little more disruptive. He was generally going to be more disruptive. You allowed him to share personal stories, to be heard, and you slowly gained compliance from him. And so, you're not, not a miracle worker. You're in the classroom. But yeah, consistent working with kids, consistently setting limits for kids and boundaries and expectations for all kids, but allowing certain kids to shift away from them is probably it may feel like it's counterproductive, or you being hypocritical because you have these rules and then you bend them for some of the kids, but that's not necessarily the case. We apply these rules, these boundaries, as consistently as we can for all children, but then we recognize on in each individual basis, certain kids will need more reminders than other kids. Some kids come to us naturally compliant, and I always tell my teachers that look for the kid who challenges you. They are going to make you a better teacher, not the child who's compliant, who's going to follow the rules at first thing. These kids who challenge you with their behaviors, with their questions, with their behaviors, are the kids who are going to make you a better teacher, because you're going to have to go into those tricks and try to figure it out. With children who come to school with disruptive behaviors, they have different issues going on that are different from yours. So not the same kid cannot be taught in the same way that other kids are. And I think that's where our educational system is in array, because you want to be consistent and firm and with all kids, but not all kids come to us with the same needs or the same abilities. If you put a group of 10 kids in the gym and you ask them to run, are you going to get everyone to finish at the same time? We all know how, we all have legs. We all know how, no, everybody comes with different abilities. And our goals as teachers is working with kids from where they're at to make them be part of the classroom and to explain. So some kids will need to be heard more. You will have to hear their stories more. Or, some kids will need you to be just in close proximity to them. So if you know this kid is going to misbehave when you put in a situation of having them work independently, you hover around, you walk around and you go close to those kids who may easily get distracted. There are kids who are not, and there's probably participants right now who are not 100% actively listening to me. And that's okay. We all do it. you will know which kids are not actively listening. So for those kids who are not actively listening, who may have not heard your directions in the way that you wanted them to hear it for them to do, and they might ask you again, well, what do we have to do, Barong Vahe? You will know that. And so you should be very proactive in your approach and say, Arpi, what did I ask for us to be done? Or you ask somebody else too to answer what they're supposed to be doing, so it re-engages. So for me, it might take one time for the teacher to say, what is the expected behavior, or what are we doing next? For Susie, it may take 2 to 3 times of a reminder. So you always ask the question again, restate the question multiple times, at least 3 times, of what you're expecting them to do next, because not all children hear it when you say it the first time. And so there are so many different classroom management skills and strategies that you can use, but you look at the individual kids and you will soon get to learn which kids are the compliant kids, which kids are easily distracted, and which kids who may challenge you as a teacher, and they will disrupt and they will intentionally do it. And usually it's attention-seeking behaviors, and sometimes they can't help it, and it's not just attention-seeking behaviors. And that's where you come in, where a better skill set of classroom management and understanding kids and psychology of kids comes in. For example, sometimes some kids don't like to write or don't know how to write as well. And I've observed a teacher who had a kid, instead of write his essay, to dictate his essay on a personal device, like recording device, or on his phone. Tell me what you want to say. If you can't write it, tell me. And the kid was engaged. So we have to think of alternate means to get our kids engaged. So look at the behaviors, especially early on in the classroom in the year. Be steady, be consistent, be firm, acknowledge the feelings of the kids. Do not interject or do not make the disruptive behavior a class issue. Talk to the child afterwards. Make an immediate hard no, but then address that disruption individually after class and talk about it. If you're going to have classroom rules and expectations, be very specific about what is expected in your classroom, what behaviors are absolutely not tolerated, and set the limits. And maybe it's gradual, like even in the workplace, we have progressive discipline by a worker doing something incorrectly, coming to school late, coming to work late, maybe has a verbal warning, a second, a written warning, a third, maybe a dock day, and then a firing or whatever. We have so many opportunities as adults to rectify our behaviors. We forget that we should give these to students. For example, do you know how many times your doctor passed their board exam to become a medical doctor? We don't. Do you know how many times your attorney took the bar? They have multiple opportunities to take the bar, to take the driving test of driving, but we have these very strict rules in classrooms that don't necessarily work, and we have to be very flexible and understanding. And I give these examples because when we give so many opportunities for an adult to become an attorney, to take the bar 6 times and have the same attorney privileges as a person who passed it the first time, we have to recognize that in children especially, not every single firm and consistent rule works with the same child. And if nothing, I leave it. That doesn't mean you can't have classroom rules and expectations and be firm, but we also have to be compassionate with everything that we do, and have empathy and have a relational, provide for relational opportunities with our students, especially the ones who are struggling and causing us problems. They need you more. And that's going to be the key of having a very successful classroom environment. So the 3 C's of classroom management is you have to be connected. You have to have a connection to your students. for them to respect you, for them to want to be compliant or want to do these things, especially in Sunday school, especially on the 6th day, or maybe even on the 7th day of learning for our students to be in a classroom. It's very important that they have that connection so they want to do it. Consistency is important because we are creatures of habit. We are creatures of taking advantage. So if we're constantly consistent and routines are used in the classrooms daily, students know what is expected of them and they will, work with it. And then most important for me is having compassion for the kids. And these slides will tell you about connection. What does it mean to connect? It's one of the simplest ways, and I don't know how this works in the Sunday schools, if you have opportunities, is to arrive early and let the kids come and talk to you in the classroom if they're there before class starts. If there's an opportunity that some kids stay a little bit longer with the kids, address any questions that they may have that have nothing to do, or maybe it has about to do life, and then you could bring in the faith and things like that. Get to know their names very well early on. Ask about their personal experiences. Ask them about their home life. I don't know if there's in early childhood education, they have, educators have long since researched and know that children learn best about things that interest them the most. So if you're going to be talking about, make sure when you develop these like lesson plans, always relate it to the kids. The more they're interested in it, or they can relate to it, the more they're going to be connected and want to learn. And so these are one of the reasons why it's so important to have a connection with students, because once they feel that they are cared for and they have a belonging, they will feel good at school. Consistency is just as it is, just constantly doing the same thing. If students are clear on the expectations and constantly receive the consistent responses to their behavior, they will do better about what controls their actions. I had the privilege of meeting a very famous pediatrician in the United States and a psychologist by the name of Dr. Leonard Sachs. And he's written a lot of books about, especially about boys and boys in the class, boys adrift. He has a lot of like things about talking about students these days, of children, how children in the 60s, 70s were taught even in TV to respect their elders and to respect, and nowadays they have TV shows that make fun of their parents and things like that. You would never find that in the Andy Griffith show. So he said there's been a whole cultural diagram shift, and kids are failing. And we've set them up for this failure. So consistency is very important. But he says, above all else, he says, do you know, he asked us in this group that he was teaching us, do you know what the number one skill set is for a student or a child to be successful as an adult? And most of us did not know the answer. I think none of us knew the answer. The number one skill that a student or a child defines them as a successful adult is self-control. It's not motivation, it's not grit, it's not intelligence, it's self-control. And self-control goes a long way in all disciplines. Well, of course, you have to be motivated, you have to be intelligent to try to be very successful in your business. But as a human being, as an adult, to be successful, the most contributing factor or skill set of any person is self-control, emotional regulation. And if we can teach this early in the classrooms with kids, we will develop kids who will go into colleges and into the workplace with a very keen understanding of who they are, and having great self-control will determine great future success. And none of that comes if you can't relate to the kids and you don't have compassion. So if you've chosen to be in the classroom to teach young minds, I hope everyone is compassionate and has compassion for us. So to show compassion to the students is very, very important. So these are some of the just easy things that you all should be aware about is universal classroom management strategies for educators. You have to model the behavior. If you're telling the kids, don't drink Coca-Cola, don't drink Coke in the classroom. I'm just using these examples. It's not, I'm not saying, if you want students not to be on their phone, don't allow the phone on your desk even. You have to model the behavior. So, you want, some of the things is to let students help establish guidelines. If they're part of the learning process, if they're part of the rules, they'll more likely engage. Document the rules. It's very important. You can't just say these are our 10 classroom rules and not post it on the wall or not remind them every day. You want to be a successful teacher? The first day in the morning, even if you've done it 100 times every day, tell them what you expect. Set them up. Don't set them up for failure. Set them up for success. Tell them what you're expecting of them. Always. So document it. Say that if a student is disruptive, if a group of students are disruptive, be wary of punishing the entire class. Consider alternate means. I'm happy to discuss other ways. I always told my dean of students, don't wait for a student to have a negative behavior or to do, because it's all going to happen. But how do we eradicate? How do we reduce? How do we eliminate behaviors? By being proactive, by constantly encouraging the initiatives. So I got a dog way beyond my needs. I'm a very compassionate, I'm almost too loving. And my dog trainer tells me, Arpi, you know what your problem is? You love your dog too much. And I laughed because she's absolutely right. And when you love something too much, sometimes, especially in the realm of dogs, they will not understand who the authority is because he thinks I'm an equal. Now we're talking about dogs. We're not talking about children. Please let me be. But what my thing is even with dogs, the trainer taught me, and I've been saying this to my dean of discipline and so forth. Students, children react, even dogs, to positive reinforcement better than negative reinforcement. That's something that you need to know. So always encourage the initiative, always encourage, always offer the praise, even thing. But if you're going to give praise, I'm very careful about this. Do not give half-hearted praises. Oh, that's so great. Oh, that's good. Because it means nothing. If you're going to offer praise, make it meaningful. If they show you a picture, Miss Avanessian, look what I drew. Oh, that's so pretty. No. Be intentional. Say, I like how you used the yellow with your lemons. I liked how you drew, give them definitive, specific praise. Parents go overboard, teachers go overboard with this overdosing of what I call vitamin P, which is praise. That's a great job. And we're leading our kids to failure when we're constantly praising them. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't praise them. But if you're going to offer praise, offer specific praise. The nonverbal communication that I talked about was the example I gave, which was go near students who are going to struggle when they're left on independent study assignment. Use nonverbal, use body language, use control, movement, move towards the kids who you think are going to be more disruptive. Move the classroom into different shapes and so forth to encourage the best possible outcome you can. So you use as much nonverbal communication with your kids as possible. You don't always have to say it. You can give them a look. You can move closer to them. And one other thing is holding parties and so forth and giving them any kind of rewards. But always consider when you're going to give rewards. Alfie Cohen is a very huge guy in the education industries, and he is always he feels like discipline and giving gold stars is only temporary compliance. So always consider that when you do rewards, but make the rewards and everything that you do or parties meaningful. I think I'm pretty much going to end it soon, but your goal as an educator, and take questions, is to ensure that each student receives the most from their education. So you give them the most, and you do not want kids to be disrupting your classroom and stopping the learning for the others. So be very intentional in your practice as a teacher. I know it's easier said than done, and I'm giving you a lot of like just conversation, but if you can self-reflect on these questions that I gave you in the beginning, where did they go? When you set up your classroom, is to understanding where you're coming from, which is what are your goals as a teacher? How do you want to be intentional with your teaching practice? Always have that in mind and let that be your guide. And let that be your why. Why are you in the classroom today? When you know your why, you will do better. So your why should always be ensuring that each student receives the most from their education that you're providing them. Thank you. I think I have a chat. So time is like to yes. God's 10 commandments: have a full life and freedom. You must abide by these rules. Great presentation. Thank you, Sammy. Does anybody have any specific like situational questions that you would like for me to answer? Like, you have this particular situation in the classroom, how will you handle that, or anything? But I think that with classroom management, as I said in the very beginning, please don't feel that one particular style is better than the other style. Know who you are and improve. We have an immense capacity to learn and get better and constantly improve. Take where you're at and make yourself better as a teacher. Don't feel like you have to completely shift and become something that you're not, because you're not going to be successful. Take who you are and improve it. Read, learn, observe other teachers, help, seek help from those. There's lots of stuff online available for teacher resources, and just talking to colleagues and talking to parents, like, what works for your child at home. Again, it doesn't take anything away from you as a teacher if you say anything that, like, I'm really having a difficult time. Encourage your kid or to actively listen and participate in. What are some of the things you've learned being their parent that works for them? So these are the things that I hopefully embark to you guys this Saturday morning, and I put colorful picture backgrounds to keep us all awake. Is there anything I can help answer?
Quick question, Arpi.
Yes.
The I don't know what color is this, but the question: what are your goals as a teacher? Why do you want to work with students? When I don't know if I can speak for all of us, but me personally, I didn't come in as a teacher.
Yeah.
I was appointed by Sir Fazan in the very beginning. You have to take care of the Sunday school. And when I started, I had no specific goals or no understanding like what should be my goal. I just went in and started like figuring out what to do. And I had absolutely no experience of working with kids and, teaching. And
how do you like it? Are you liking it? Is it speaking to you? I'm interjecting because I want to depend on how my answer is going to be.
So I've been doing this for 13 years now, and
okay.
I was the superintendent of the Sunday school, and I absolutely love it. And the reason why is after a few years when some students, they graduate, they go into their way, high school and college, and then they come back, they join ACO, and when they see you, they come and give you a hug, it's like you're part of their life. I don't know how to explain this, but that gratitude and thankfulness, I don't know how to explain it. When they always see you, they smile, they come and give you a hug. It means you have done something that
you've touched their hearts, right? You showed compassion. They don't feel like that way towards every teacher, I have to tell you. So that's kudos to you. So you've connected with not everybody is a born educator. I've I had to, during COVID, I had to sub for Armenian language teachers. And I speak Armenian, but I don't speak Armenian well enough to teach it. And so either the kids were going to lose the day or they, and so I felt very uncomfortable being in a kindergarten classroom, a first grade classroom, because I was always a history teacher or high school. I didn't know how to bond. So I understand what you're coming from. Sometimes some people have the natural talent of charming and working with students and having compassion, and other teachers can be trained and not have that. So like just because you were not an educator from the beginning doesn't mean that you can't be a successful educator. So take that into, if your students are coming back to you and they're happy, that means you did something right. If nothing else, you know, if you didn't teach the subject right, you taught something.
Yeah. And one more question, if I may. So all these things, you know, throughout the years, like when you teach, or let's say you figured out what your goal is and what do you want to, why do I want to work with students? You know, how do I want to be viewed by my students? But throughout the years, I think that all these questions that you have in mind or answers for these questions kind of start, you know, fading away because you can't, like, it becomes a routine. You have to do it, like, and like you're forgetting about the goals. You're just doing it because you have to do it. So how do you keep this like constant? How do you keep it in mind? Because yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I remember I was getting my credential and my professor said something very eye-opening to me. He said, Arpi, when you go do your student teaching assignment, do not be, or your assignment or your first teaching, do not be intimidated by that teacher who's next door to you who's been teaching for 20 years. Because they could have been teaching 20 times 1. They've done the same thing for 20 years. They haven't improved. So what you're asking me, Vahe, is something that comes naturally. It's not something you can teach. You cannot force a teacher to do these things. You have to want to do these things.
Yeah.
So if they're coming for the 9 to 5, if they're coming because it's a paycheck, if they're coming because sometimes it's reality. Sometimes we're not going to get all the teachers with heart. So when I hire faculty, I look for heart first and foremost. I can never teach a teacher to have heart. I can teach them classroom discipline, management, I can teach, but I can never give them heart. And if they don't want to be teaching, and right now it's a little bit hard for me to say that even because there's such a lack of teachers people who want to teach. So it's so very difficult for me to, but in an ideal utopic environment, the first thing I look for is heart. Everything else.
Unfortunately, the same in the Sunday school field. We're having a hard time of finding teachers.
I think you need to inspire. You need to pizzazz them. You need to, you know, there has to be something in it. Like you have to make it, you know.
We have Sirpazan. He also wants to comment. Arpi, are we done with the stream?
Yes, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Arpi for this most uplifting and empowering presentation. You know, if you really want to be a teacher, you need to stay as a student. You know, I always learn from all people, I should say, and I'm so thankful again for today's presentation. What I have in mind, Arpi and all the teachers, that we all are teachers. We all are born as teachers. The difference is that, you know, the teacherhood starts from the moment when you practice it. I think that's another journey. To have that mission and vision in you and to practice it, these are very two different, situations, I should say. What you have said, it speaks about those who are engaged in the teacherhood, and no doubt, you know, teachers who have applied all these methods in their life as teachers, they are most joyful because they feel that they have accomplished, they feel they have touched the heart and minds of children to become closer to God. And also, if they are teachers for day schools, for them also to enrich, their knowledge in science and history and whatever. So I'm so thankful to you, Arpi, and also my gratitude to all the teachers of the Sunday school. I know we will now go to the next speaker, Bahe, but as I have another meeting sharp at 12 o'clock, I will be leaving the meeting at 11:50 to get ready for my other, meeting, which is a big meeting, and I have to conduct that meeting. But again, I commend Bahe, this initiative. It's very, very important to have this kind of conferences because as teachers, we all need to give ourselves the chance, to be enriched with new knowledge, with new perspectives, with new initiatives, with new innovative methods, because the children, they challenge us. They challenge us with their concerns, with their questions, with their expectations, and also they teach us. They teach us to be a better teacher also. And I'm happy to say that I have with me Father Yeremia, who is listening, to this conference for the first time, and I'm sure that this is equally interesting to him. So God be with all of you. I will continue to be with you, but if I leave at 11:50, I've already have extended my immense gratitude to all, and hopefully, all those who haven't been with us, for this session, this is recorded, and they will have a chance, to revise it. God be with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sir Pazan Vahe. I'm going to put my email on the chat. So for those of you who have questions for me or didn't want to ask it today, you can email me or throughout the year if you have any questions. I'm available. I know that Nanar said that she has a question. So Nanar, let me hear the question. If it's if I can answer it quickly, I will. If not, I will email you my response.
Thank you so much.
I got your thing. I will email you the copy of the slideshow.
Quickly, then my question is, if we are in a situation where we need to address the parents about a student with whatever behavior, what do you have tips for that? How should we approach that parent without alienating them?
Okay.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. I'll send you some conversational starters with parents in an email. Anand, or if you type in the chat your email address, I'll send you some conversational stuff. Oftentimes they tell you to do a sandwich. Start with a good, second, speak to the behavior. Third, end it with a positive note. Start with the positive, middle, address the behavior with the student, of the student with the parents, and then end it with another positive. I think that if you can make a good connection with the parents, talk to them, relate, say, I'm having this, make it a little bit more about you, less about their child. It might be more, like I'm having the difficulty. It's, I feel, be very intentional with your words and not to label the child. Say, I'm noticing these things. It might be my style, take a little onus onto you and then see if they open up. If some parents are, this is why we have teacher shortage. Parental input or the way parents come is a very disrupting factor in our educational system. So be very intentional with your practice on how you speak to parents. But I would take a little bit more onto you, and make it a little bit more about you and less about the kid, but it's really the kid, and be intentional on how you say it. And then if the parent seems open and to hearing it, then go into it, say, how can we work together? How can we have a seamless operate between school, between, Sunday school and thing. How can we work together? What works for your son or your daughter at home? tell me so I can try to do that here, because I really want your child to, you know, to get the most out of it. And if you have a child with debilitating behaviors or really harsh thing, then you need to have you know, you don't sugarcoat it too much, you know, but if it's minimal and things like that, work with it. But if you type in on our, your stuff, I will send it. I will send you some conversation starters with parents. Thank you. Sorry, Vahe. That's it for me.
No problem. Thank you so much, Arpi. This is amazing. Truly appreciate that. Again, this is also a good reminder for those of us who have been Sunday school teachers, who have been working in the class, how to kind of refresh our goals, to look back and look forward also, and kind of reestablish what we want to do, you know. And thank you, Sarpazan, also for your comments and again your blessings. Would fully appreciate that. Now I want to introduce, ask our next speaker to introduce herself. It's Zar Mugrdechian. Most of us probably know her because she's been the CEC chair for long time, and she has done immense work in the work of Christian education in the diocese. And in the chat, you can also see two PDF files on the very top of the chat. I think Zara is sharing her presentation and e-resources with us. So without further ado, please, Zara Mugrdechian.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to hear what we've heard this morning. It really will help in the classroom. I want to briefly speak about when you get the content, whether you're using the We Believe or you have the content that is being sent from the Western Diocese, we want to make sure that that content is delivered to the kids. And we get a choice in your teaching style. It could be passive or it could be active. And so we're going to talk about that today and see what might be the best way to handle it with the kids. And so first I want to talk to you about what is a passive style. A passive style would be a style where the teacher speaks to the kids. And throughout your hour or hour and a half that you are with the children, basically you're the one feeding them, giving them information with very little interaction or very little focus on the kids. And then we have the active style. The active style is the style where we want to emphasize the importance of learning through actual experience. And so maybe you would have a combination in your classroom. Obviously, you get the content, whether it's talk about Saint Vartan, or it's about the topic of one of the sacraments. How will you make that deliverable? How will you make it interesting for the kids? And so we have to be able to know what your style is and to be able to do it. I like the active style. I want to interact with the kids. Yes, I'm going to give them information about that topic, but I want to make them interested in it and be able to do it as a group. And so what do we have to do? You have a voice then. You're the voice in the classroom. You are going to be telling the children about Saint Vartan, but are there other voices that could join you? Do you have videos about Saint Vartan? Do you have another person that really loves Saint Vartan that has maybe some pictures or artifacts that they could bring in and share with the kids? Are there stories about Saint Vartan that you could read that really show his personality or what his characteristics are that you're trying to teach? There are many different ways to do it. As far as books, I want to suggest to you what are called the Arch books, ARCH. They are a fantastic series of books. They cost like $3.49 a piece, or you can get 12 of them for $25 that have topics on different Bible characters, about Advent, about many different things. They are through Concordia Press, and I've used them at St. Paul, and I really enjoyed it through the years. And I guess I should back up and say, yes, I have been a teacher and superintendent at St. Paul Church. I was an educator for Fresno Unified Schools for many years, and also principal of the Charlie Kayan Armenian Community School in Fresno. And I did get a master's in second language acquisition, which really helped me as I was teaching Armenian in my different hats that I've had throughout the years. So my experience in the Sunday school is very, very important, and I want you to be successful. Yes, they're called ARCH, A-R-C-H, like a rainbow and arch. That's the series that I'm talking about. As far as other people that have that you can bring into the class, bring your deacon into the class, bring the choir member into your classroom, bring whoever you can to make it even more personal and have another person be the voice of what you're trying to teach them for that Sunday. You might have a fantastic volunteer that the kids see working in the church. Have them come and say, why are you a volunteer? What are the aspects that you enjoy? What is it that you do to serve the church? So bring in many different people and voices and ways to teach that lesson. We'll come back to different kinds of resources at the very end for e-resources. Vahed, can you actually show the presentation on the screen also?
Sure. Give me 1 minute, please.
Thank you. Before you also start, you need to know your students. And in this first document that I have, and I hope that since you have it in the chat, that you'll be able to look at it more as the days go by before Sunday school starts. You need to know your students, and it's called a survey of students, and there are broken down into age levels, like ages 4 to 5. What are the general characteristics of children? What are their needs? What is their level of understanding as far as religion goes? And I'm just going to briefly give you some thoughts there, and then we'll move on. So in pre-K and K, you'd say they appreciate and enjoy learning that God created the world. You think of God in personal terms. You respond to Jesus with simple trust, and so on and so on. And the different kinds of activities that you do to make it an active classroom, to be able to interact with the kids, have them talk to each other, have them do things. Yes, I can see the, can you make it a little bit larger at all?
It's on my full screen. It's
okay,
I think
that's
yeah.
fine, no problem. Then going on to grades 1 and 2, you again see the characteristics, the needs they have. If you can go to the next page, please, Vahed. The understanding, you go back into appreciating the Bible as a special book, continuing to enjoy Bible stories, praying, understanding that Jesus is a special person, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to read all of these, but I do want you just to have it for your grade level as you teach the classroom. Going on to 3rd and 4th grade, you see that in the level of understanding, it of course is going to become deeper. You know that prayer is about communication. You begin to appreciate the sights and sounds of the liturgy and enjoying and participating in charity projects and church tasks. In the 5th and 6th grade, it level goes up even more to more questions, much more deeper understanding of the liturgy. You can appreciate prayer as a tool for growing closer to God. and so on and so forth. And then the middle grades, the level goes up. The activities are different, obviously, because the kids are more capable. So you want to take a look at what you can do in your classroom, how you can use these types of activities to deepen understanding instead of you being the only voice in the classroom. And then in the high school, the last page of it, it shows that you can definitely explore Christian values of lifestyle, a much clearer understanding of biblical principles and the relationship of the Bible to the science, history, and literature, and move on from there. So in active learning, I've found a great article that shows 17, and there's lots more, but there are many that we're going to talk about that you can use in your classroom. If you haven't used these types of activities, please, you can email me and I'd be happy to further discuss that with you. But just to start with, let's say role play. Kids love to role play. It doesn't matter if they're in kindergarten or in high school or any grade. If you have the story of the prodigal son, have someone be the father, have someone be the son, have someone be the pigs, whatever they think of and you think of, and role play the story of the prodigal son. In addition to your just telling them about it, have them become involved. What would the pig say? What does the father say? What do you remember that the boy did or where he went? Let them act it out. You can go on to the next page, please. In collaborative learning, they work in groups. So you might have a topic that you can have the kids work in small groups. If you have 5 or 6 kids in the class, that's okay. Let 2 or 3 work together and make a poster or do a mural of the story or the topic that you're talking about. If they're in the upper grades, they could share that, go into the 2nd grade or 3rd grade and share their knowledge of their project and what they did. Pair shares are great fun in almost all grade levels. When you talk about a topic, have the children turn to the person next to them and retell what you just told them. And you'll be hearing how much they understand of what you just told them. In grab bags are fun because you can put things in a bag. It could be like objects from the story of the creation. They can touch it. They have to see what did God create. And there might be a rock. There might be other things in there that you think of. Let them just touch it and then try to describe what did God create. Then we can go to games. People think games are not just for fun, but actually games are for learning. And you can play games that truly teach and have kids talk to each other. As they speak to each other, they're using the knowledge that they've learned. They are able to express it to other kids. And eventually, if their family says, well, what did you learn today? They don't just say, I don't know, or, oh, I just learned about creation. They'll be able to actually use the vocabulary that you used in the classroom to further that. So games really are an amazing way to further your lesson for that day. And then peer teaching. How many of you have candle holders or deacons or choir members who are young, who are the age or near the age of your students? Have them come and tell about what it's like to be near the or on the altar. Have them share with each other the learning and things that they know. So we have lots of different active ways. In addition, I was just thinking there's jigsaws. Jigsaws have always been fun for me. You can have kids or groups, small groups, like 2 kids or 3 kids, form small groups in your class and each read a parable that Jesus performed, and they get to come back and report back to the whole class what the parable was about, or they might want to dramatize the parable. So again, each group reports back to the whole class, and that's how the jigsaw is completed. One activity that's essential is going into church, and when you go into church, say today, this week, we're going to look at how many candles there are, and where are the candles? Are they just on tables, or are they on the altar, or are they on the side altars? So you're using vocabulary that is used in the church, having them become involved and to see how many candles there are. Who, if there's a candle lighting area, what do the people do? Why is that done? Or you could say, well, do we have icons in the church? What are they about? Why are they on the altar? And so, or why are they in the church area? And so there's many ways to involve kids as they go into church to become active participants and observers of what's going on in church. Or you could take them into the kitchen, and maybe one of the ladies will show how to make moss, and the kids can help make moss. After all, it is just flour and water, and the recipe is pretty simple. So you might be able to demonstrate how to make that moss. At St. Paul, we used to plant flowers in one of the flower beds to beautify the church grounds. Or at Easter time, when it was Easter break, all the kids would get together and we would go dust all the pews in the church, again, to show how to serve the church and how to become active participants. So I don't know, I'm sure you have a lot of ideas too of what you've done in your classroom. And if you'd like to share, we'd love to hear also. So what Vahe has put up now is 4 pages of amazing activities, from art activities to oral communication style activities, storytelling, choral speaking, Bible reading. And if you move to the next page, please, Vahe. It goes on to discussions, creative writing, and many, many thousands of other ways to do active activities. And it gives suggestions for grade levels going across the screen. You can see that there is that in it also. Okay. So my last portion, Vahe, if you can go to the second e-resources, I would appreciate it. All of these things, I'm not sure about your Sunday school, how it's funded, or if you get enough donations, but you do need to realize that the Ladies Society that is located at your church has part of, in their bylaws, it does say that they need to support the Sunday school. And we need to be free to ask them if you need supplies, if you need things for the Sunday school and your Sunday school isn't wealthy enough to buy, then you can go ahead and ask them to do those kinds of things. In this last portion, I have put together as that other voice, and you can slowly scroll through, Vahe, that would be fine. A document which shows many different topics and e-resources that I have found from the Eastern Diocese, from the Western Diocese, from In His Steps, from Father Vasken Movsesian, so that you can find videos that could be your other voice or that who augment your voice in the classroom. And it shows where you can find it and how long each of those videos are. I have found at St. Peter, which I have been working at last year, that we bought a projector, and it's a VideoSonic PS600W, and it's cost about $500, but it's truly worth it. I wish we had 2 of them because there's an upstairs and a downstairs at St. Peter, and we've put the projector and a laptop together on a cart so it can go from room to room. And you can use these types of resources. I don't know how many of you have seen his presentations, but they're engaging, they're short, they're informative, and they're on so many different topics, as you can see, that it really is an asset to know about in the classroom. And so again, I hope that my getting these materials, and you can share them as much as you can in your Sunday schools, because I know not everybody was here today, and it would be great for you to be able to have an active classroom. Be as active as possible. Do as much as you can, as you feel comfortable, to make your lessons involving, engaging, and help the kids to access their faith journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Zar. The second e-resources for church school file is just amazing. I'm going to submit this to Sarfazan as well, because he has been asking for this kind of document for years, and I keep referring him to the playlists that we have on Facebook and YouTube, the media department. But this is a great consolidation of resources for the Sunday schools that can be very helpful. And you can, if you download the PDF files, you'll see that the links are active links. You just click on the link and it takes you to the page. And I also wanted to make a small comment about the projector. Fortunately, I'm not sure what the setting is in your specific Sunday school, but the much cheaper versions or options can be found if you just buy a smart TV. Smart TVs are really, really cheap now. You can get a decent sized TV for $300, even $200 in, I don't know, Walmart, Target, and Best Buy. And you can use all these resources, in the classroom very, very easily.
Right. There are different ways, and it just depends on how each Sunday school is set up, whether they want to put it in one room or it can move around. But yeah, look at all the different options to see what works best.
Just before I ask Sarfazan to make his comment, they're asking about the presentations. The presentations, if you go to the chat and scroll to the very top of the chat, there are 2 PDF files. Can you see that? Gina is asking, and who else was this? Gentine, Nanor. Can you guys see the files? There are 2 files there. Let me try that again one more time. Here, if I send it now.
Yeah, I don't see that.
You don't see them?
No,
and how about now?
I do not know.
I don't know if okay, I'll figure this out. If not, I will be sending out the files one way or the other through the emails that I sent, both to the pastors and to the teachers and superintendents. So please, Sarfazan, your comment.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I want to thank Zar for his presentation. For the past 20 plus years that I have been here, Zar's engagement has been witnessed by me personally, and many others have known her and her connectedness, to the church. There's so much that we can learn from you, Zar, and all I can say, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for what you do to Sunday schools and in general for what you do for our diocese. I certainly would like to encourage all the teachers and also in the coming weeks, if possible, let's remind the teachers to watch the recorded presentation, because they really have to watch these presentations and benefit from the sources which were provided. Everything is ready on a silver plate, just take it and utilize it, as an important tool for us all to be dedicated and enriched teachers for our children. Again, what you have seen, the resources which were collected and presented to us by Zar, it's amazing. And Vahe, my recommendation would be that you send out a follow-up letter to all teachers, those who haven't been here with us, first to watch the recorded presentations, and second, if possible, to create a line of communication. All students, all teachers, all superintendents, if they have questions, maybe they should be, like a way to address their questions all the way, to CEC, and for us to be able to respond. And if there are serious concerns, Zar will always be there to help us and to assist us after decades of his dedication as a superintendent and as a teacher. So God bless you all. And I'm afraid I have to leave in a minute or so at 11:50 for my next meeting. But I am truly thankful to you all to give me the chance to be with you for these presentations. Another chance for me to learn from my teachers here for what you do, the way you do, with love and compassion for the sake of our children. God bless you, Zar.
Thank
Thank you, Sir Fazan. Again, we will be the recording is will be ready for sometimes during the next week. Along with the recording, I will be sending out the next year's calendar for all of you. And I want to make a small comment about the calendar. In the calendar, I was talking to Father Yerishe yesterday, and he was asking about how often do the kids have to go to the church? I mean, according to the calendar. And well, the calendar states that it's either I think every first Sunday of the month or last Sunday of the month. But again, it's up to you, teachers or superintendents. If you want to take them every Sunday, that would be just great. You know, the point of taking them to the church in the beginning of the month is for them to take communion and be part of the sacrament of part of the church. But other than that, if you are able and you manage to take the kids, to the church every Sunday, it's just perfect. Again, thank you, dear Zar. The presentation was very, very helpful. Especially I like the part with all the activities and names for the games, and it's amazing. And also thank you, dear Arpi, for the methodology. Is something that every single teacher and superintendent just, it's a very important tool that we need to have throughout our experience. Thank you again for all the participants. Once I send out, I see that you left your emails here. I will be sending out the video and, as I mentioned, the curriculum and some other resources. I will attach Zar's presentation and PDF file with the e-resources. Please make sure to share those with your peers, with other teachers, so we can be as resourceful and as strong as a community of teachers. And I also want to encourage you all to join us on a Facebook page. If you give me a second, I'll send you the link for the Facebook page. Let's see, where is it? Here. There's also a group that you can all join. You can chat here. Can everyone see the link in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you're using Facebook, please join us there. And yeah, thanks again, everyone. Thank you, dear speakers, and thank you, Sir Fazan Hyde. We're hopeful that we're gonna start this year with empowerment from this workshop from our speakers, and it's gonna take us at least a year until the next workshop comes up, God willing. Thank you all, and
Wahid,
Fazan.
before we make the closing prayer, if anyone is interested to be part of the CEC Central Council, I would love to get their names. Let them send their names, to you, and we will have a meeting immediately upon my return from Pakistan. Okay, so I see.
Yes.
Soler Hayrabedian is interested to be part of the Central Council, and if there are others, please let me know. I will definitely take that into consideration.
Yes, thank you, Sir Fazan. Thank you. Again, you can be in touch with me, and anyone who's interested to be part of the CEC Central Council, I will relay this to Sir Fazan, and we'll go from there. And with your prayers, Sir Fazan.
Okay. Hanhor yevortvoyevo puinserpamen, Bahaban amenani, Christos achko hovani litiberamer, ideve vigisheri, nestigidani kanali janabar, inencheli viharnes mir pexasanezet, yevormia quararazos, yemes pazmegazes. Amen. Almighty God, we thank you immensely for today's presentation. We thank you for gracing upon the lives of our children, the dedication of our teachers at Sunday schools in our respective parishes of the Western Diocese. God has entrusted us this most important and precious mission to cultivate the hearts and minds and souls of our children, for them to become dedicated students and, God willing, one day dedicated teachers and servers of the Armenian Apostolic Church. Bless us all, Almighty God. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear all. Thank you, Sir Fazan, and hope to be in touch with you all very soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.